One bad decision can erase 10 good years. That's a truth. Most people only learn after it's too late. We grow up believing success is about stacking good habits, working hard, saving money, being consistent, staying disciplined, and all of that matters. But what no one emphasizes enough is the other side of the equation. Avoiding the mistakes that can undo everything. Because building takes time. Destroying doesn't. You can spend a decade doing the right things. Living responsibly, investing patiently, building skills, growing income, and still lose it all to a single moment of bad judgment. Progress is slow and quiet. Damage is fast and loud. It takes years to build financial stability. It takes minutes to lose it. Most people assume financial ruin comes from ignorance, from not knowing enough, from being careless from the start. But that's not how it usually happens. Most disasters happen to people who were doing fine, people who were smart, people who were disciplined until they weren't. The danger doesn't come when you risk. It comes when you start to feel comfortable. That's when risk sneaks in. One bad decision rarely looks bad in the moment. It usually feels reasonable, justified, even smart. That's what makes it dangerous. It might be one investment that promises faster returns. One loan taken because income is stable. One partnership entered without proper checks. One emotional decision made under pressure. And suddenly, years of effort are on the line. The most common trigger behind these decisions is overconfidence. After a few years of doing well, people start to believe the rules don't apply to them anymore. They confuse discipline with invincibility. They think past success guarantees future outcomes. They think experience cancels risk. It doesn't. Risk doesn't disappear when you get smarter. It just becomes easier to underestimate. This is how people talk themselves into bad decisions. This time is different. I've earned this. I know what I'm doing now. I can fix it if it goes wrong. Those thoughts have ended more financial journeys than ignorance ever has. One of the fastest ways to erase years of progress is leverage. Leverage makes small mistakes big. It magnifies outcomes in both directions. When things go well, leverage feels like intelligence. Returns come faster. Results look impressive. But when things turn even slightly, leverage removes margin. It leaves no room for error. The problem isn't leverage itself. The problem is using it emotionally. Borrowing to accelerate growth without understanding downside risk. Borrowing based on optimism instead of resilience. Borrowing because others seem to be winning. Leverage doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care about your track record. It doesn't care how hard you worked to get here. It only cares about outcomes. That's why people can lose 10 good years in a single market cycle. Not because they were reckless from the start, but because they forgot to respect fragility. Another silent eraser is lifestyle inflation. Not the dramatic kind. The quiet kind. It doesn't show up as a crisis. It shows up as comfort. A slightly nicer apartment. A slightly better car. More subscriptions. More fixed expenses. More commitments tied to future income. None of it feels dangerous in isolation. But together, they reduce flexibility. They shrink your margin of safety. They turn a strong income into a fragile system. And when something unexpected happens, a job loss, a downturn, a health issue, a family emergency, There's no buffer. 10 years of earning power can disappear, not because income stopped forever, but because expenses never learned how to stop. The tragedy is that these decisions often come from success, not failure. When income rises, people assume security has arrived. They lock themselves into a lifestyle that depends on everything continuing to go right. But wealth isn't built on things always going right. It's built on surviving when things go wrong. Another decision that erases years is chasing speed. Slow progress feels boring, especially once you've tasted growth. People get tired of waiting, tired of compounding, tired of playing it safe. So they chase higher returns, riskier opportunities, unproven shortcuts. They trade stability for excitement, but speed magnifies mistakes. The faster you try to move, the less time you give yourself to react. The wealthy understand this deeply. They don't obsess over how much they can make. They obsess over how much they can lose. They protect downside first, because upside can be rebuilt. Time cannot. You can recover from a missed opportunity. You cannot recover from being wiped out. That's why long-term wealth looks cautious from the outside. It avoids unnecessary risk. It avoids ego-driven decisions. It avoids bets that require everything to go right. Ego is another powerful eraser. Ego pushes people to prove instead of protect, to take risks they don't need to take, to chase recognition instead of resilience. Ego turns money into a scoreboard, a way to measure worth. And when money becomes emotional, decisions become dangerous. Ego says, I can handle this. Reality doesn't negotiate. Markets don't reward confidence. They reward preparation. Another overlooked eraser is ignoring worst-case scenarios. Most people plan for average outcomes. They assume things will probably be fine. But wealth is built by planning for the extremes. What happens if income drops suddenly? What happens if an investment goes to zero? What happens if access to capital disappears? These questions aren't pessimism. They're protection. The people who survive long-term aren't the most up. They're the most prepared. They build buffers. They keep liquidity. They leave room for error. Because they know an unexpected shock can undo years of discipline. Another decision that destroys progress is abandoning principles under pressure. When markets crash, when fear rises, when uncertainty spreads, that's when people break their own rules, undo carefully built strategies. Emotion makes temporary problems permanent. The wealthy expect volatility. They plan for it. They don't build systems that only work in perfect conditions. They assume stress will command design around it. This is why wealth looks boring up close. No constant excitement. No dramatic swings. No emotional decisions. Just survival, consistency, and restraint. Because the real goal isn't to win big once. The real goal is to stay in the game long enough for time to work. That's the rule most people ignore. They focus on growth and forget survival. They chase upside and ignore fragility. But the people who build wealth over decades understand this. The first goal is not to get rich. The first goal is to not get wiped out. Everything else comes second. One bad decision can erase 10 good years. That's why slowing down is a skill. That's why caution is not weakness. That's why boring decisions often outperform exciting ones. Protecting what you built is just as important as building it. Because the hardest thing to replace isn't money. It's the time behind it.